Are movie remakes getting out of hand? Everywhere we turn, there seems to be a new remake of sorts getting shoved at us. Whether it's a new look at a Disney classic or a retelling of your favorite story. Hollywood likes to show us a bit of deja vu when it comes to the films we consume. Why is this? Has Hollywood lost all of its originality, or has it always been this way? First off, what is a remake? Is it the same thing as a reboot? Well, no. Remakes and reboots get confused all the time, but the two are completely different things. A remake is a retelling of a story with very little to no change to the source material. An example would be the 2015 version of Cinderella. It tells the same story as the fable and the 1950 animated version with tweaks here and there. Speaking of, why can't I watch this version of Cinderella on Disney Plus? I don't know why I have the sudden urge to watch this film, but I would still like the option. What the heck, Disney? A reboot, on the other hand, is a reimagining of the original work, like a Cinderella story. The concept is the same, but it takes a more modern approach. If you don't know about that classic Hilary Duff movie, then another example is any Spider-Man movie that has graced us with its presence. It has the same characters, but it takes on a different look in each installment. Remakes have been around since the dawn of the industry. However, it's unclear as to what the first one was, due to 75% of silent films being lost to time after the inclusion of sound. Some have speculated that one of the first is a French short by the name, I might butcher this so I do apologize, La Hose, which was a recopy of La Hose, La Hose. Again, I do apologize for my French pronunciation. These shorts were the earliest examples of filmed comedies, portraying a boy stepping on a hose as a gardener is tending to his flowers. In the early days of film, copyright wasn't as strict as it is today, making countless films become redistributed and remade again and again under different names. The most notable one is the Great Train Robbery made by Edwin S. Porter in 1903, which changed film forever, straying away from the single camera shot, which was the standard of the silent era, and bringing in a more dynamic type of filmmaking with its editing and camera movement. You know, the standard thing we see in film today. Even with all its accomplishments, Porter's film was not safe from getting remade. For you see, the next year, Sigmund Lubin made his own version, which was a carbon copy of the original. It wasn't until 1912 that stricter copyright laws came into play. Still, it's crazy to think that there was a time when even the most groundbreaking film wasn't safe from being ripped off a year later. When films with sound came along, remakes helped repurpose stories shown in the silent era, adding in realistic dialogue that flowed with the story instead of title cards. Two notable remakes from this time were The Count of Monte Cristo, no, not the one with Henry Cavill, the other one from 1934, and Captain Blood, which brought more adventure stories to the big screen. The next technology to inspire change was the dawn of color, bringing in brighter and happier musical films of the 1950s, like A Star is Born, a remake of the 1937 film, only this time featuring Judy Garland as the female lead. This wasn't the only time that this film was remade. The other version included the 1976 version with Barbra Streisand, which won an Oscar for Best Original Song for Evergreen, and then again in 2018 with Lady Gaga, who also won an Oscar for Best Original Song for Shallow. As computers started to get more advanced in the 90s to today, digital effects have brought in a new wave for films to enhance the movie-going experience, helping aid in making remakes like Alice in Wonderland that transported you into a new wonderful world. Or you can look at digital effects the other way and say that they hindered remakes like Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know, that's up to you to decide if you think that special effects has helped or hurt. All I know is remakes have been around for a long time, and even in 100 years from now, they'll still be around. With the dawn of new technology, there will always be a flock of remakes waiting to be made. So remakes have been around forever. But why does it feel like they're more annoying and uninspiring than ever? Well, I have two possible answers to this question. If there is one thing I know about big businesses, is that they love money. If a big business already has the rights to a said film, and they already know that people enjoyed it the first time, time, then they'll make it again. Or in some cases, sell it again. I mean, Disney has done both of these things, reselling classic films like The Little Mermaid countless times in the Disney Vault era. If you don't know what the Disney Vault is, it's a time when the company resold classic films in theaters, VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray about 1 billion times. And people would buy the same movie again and again, even if they've already seen the movie 10 billion times before. I don't know whether that is insanely clever marketing or just super manipulative. The history of the Disney Vault era is crazy. This video explains it all to you if you want to go check it out. Now, the Vault wasn't the only thing that Disney has done. Most recently, it's turned to remaking its animated classics into shot-for-shot live-action copies, besides The Lion King 2019, which was still an animated film. Why would Disney turn to making these remakes in the first place? The simple answer is in the 90s, the Disney Renaissance took the animation scene by storm, creating some of the most profitable animated works ever produced at the time. The Disney Renaissance was a huge success, and audiences of all ages enjoyed these films. It was only a matter of time before Disney would capitalize on the success of these films again. It's not like they weren't doing it before.
Get it before it's gone.
Instead of reselling the same film over and over again, they made a new, shinier versions of their classic films. People like them the first time, they'll like them again. It works because all the adults that watch these films as kids would love to share the new versions with their children, bringing in a nostalgic marketing tactic that we as humans keep on falling for. Again, I don't know whether this is genius or just super manipulative. This seems to work for them because the 2019 version of The Lion King is the highest grossing animated film of all time. These remakes are not going anywhere, with the new Little Mermaid film coming out better or for worse in May. I have no doubt that Disney will make money from this film again. The other theory I have for big businesses making remakes is the rise of streaming services. Streaming has become the new norm, replacing cable altogether. With the rise of streaming, shiny new programs need to be front and center for people to want to stay subscribed. For things like Disney Plus or HBO Max or Max, whatever the heck it's calling itself nowadays, with streaming, there are a handful of shows and movies that see people migrate from one service to the next. Stranger Things, The Last of Us, The Mandalorian, and so on and so forth. To keep people from unsubscribing on the off times when their mega hits aren't gracing us with their presence, other things have to take their place to keep people entertained. That's where remakes come in. Due to companies already having the rights to said work, they can recreate it without an issue. Is making remakes on streaming services worth it? Financially, I don't know. I've never really looked into it. But on the consumer end of things, yes. It's something new for people to click on, even if the quality is subpar. What is this? Did anyone ask for this? Because I sure didn't. Although it seems like there are a lot of different remakes popping up here and there on these services, it's still not as bad as 2005, which has the highest number of remakes made in the last century. What it really boils down to is, are remakes helpful or hurtful? Well, I kind of see it both ways. Helpful in regards to sharing classic stories that we might not ever read the books to, like The Great Gatsby, Little Women, or The Count of Monte Cristo. Remakes aren't always a bad thing. They keep bringing in new stories to new audiences, whether it's a retelling of a classic novel or using new technology to repurpose a previous film. With anything, why recreate the wheel? Remaking a film can bring an intriguing story back to the forefront, helping share something iconic with a new generation of people. On the other hand, remakes, especially today, feel like we're going back to the start. Nothing is safe from being remade. In some cases, I feel like it helps empower a film, like with the recreation of West Side Story, but in others, it feels like there's a big question mark as to why. Remaking something shot for shot that was already successful or deemed as a classic by people doesn't feel like the best way to use your company's resources, especially when it comes to animated bodies of work that turn live action. Now, I will admit I am a little biased. I always tend to enjoy enjoy animated work over live action, but that's another topic for another day. Disney has been doing this for a while now, which is good for them because money.
Yay, more money!
It feels, at least to me, like a slap in the face to the animated works that came before, a disservice to the very talented people who worked on the originals, and just a waste of time for the talented people who work at the company now. Companies don't want to take a large risk making something original because they're already risking a lot with their streaming services. That's where remakes come into play. They're the safer, more reasonable way of making money. The only other question that I have is what is considered an untouchable film? A film that should not ever be remade. If we define it as a classic film, that's out of the question because Psycho has already been remade. Why, you ask? I have no idea. In Hollywood, there are those masterpieces like Citizen Kane, It's a Wonderful Life, and The Godfather. But are those movies locked in to being the only versions? I guess only time will tell. That's just my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts about remakes in the comments down below. Which ones do you love? Which ones do you hate? If you liked this video, you might enjoy this one right over here, and I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.